everybody, and welcome to PG Today. It's a new podcast from Progressive Grocer that breaks down the important topics of the day. I'm Lynn Petrex, Senior Editor at Progressive Grocer, and my colleague Emily Crow and I are going to be talking to experts throughout this series about market-changing and often urgent topics that affect both daily operations and the longer-term future of the industry. One issue that's really top of mind among many stakeholders in the grocery chain or retail chain, especially this time of year, is preparation for an impact of natural disasters. It's hurricane season ramping up. We see that in different parts of the country. In other areas, wildfire risks are a little bit more elevated than usual. Today, we're talking about preparedness and setups for disaster relief with an organization that's really known for its sophisticated logistics system, Amazon. And we're so pleased to be joined by Bettina Stix, Amazon's Director of Disaster Relief, Food Security, and Education. Welcome, Bettina.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us. A little bit more background on you so our listeners and our viewers get to know more about you. Bettina founded Amazon's disaster relief program in 2017. Her experience at Amazon spans more than 26 years, and she's held leadership position across international websites, customer service, and membership programs. She now oversees Amazon's disaster relief, food security, and education impact programs using the power of Amazon's logistics and innovation to support communities around the world. She serves on the board of Fair Start. It's a Seattle nonprofit that transforms homelessness and hunger into potential. She holds a PhD in comparative literature and a master's degree in history from the University of Stuttgart. So welcome again. That's quite a background. So we know you're a pro on this topic. So Bettina, why is Amazon so well positioned to provide disaster relief no matter where something might crop up?
Yeah, it's a good question, and one that I sort of use to kind of make the case for it, so that Amazon would actually really help. If you think about it, how your package then gets to your doorstep, it needs a lot of infrastructure investments. Amazon has the inventory, we have the technology to know what you need, and we know how to distribute goods across the United States, but also across the world. So we're using all of these, the same infrastructure, same inventory, same technology to deliver packages to the doorsteps of our nonprofit partners in that case, wherever they stem up their operations. And we proud ourselves to do this as fast as we can. And we do it in 72 hours.
That's remarkable. And this is something that's 2017 doesn't really seem, maybe it is that long ago. To me, it doesn't seem like it, but it's not that long ago that it's in place, and you were right at the founding, right?
Yeah, indeed. Here at Amazon, what is this now? 8.5 years feels like a very, very long time. But the memories from the hurricanes that we had in that year are still very, very vivid. If you think about Harvey or Maria, and Irma, and the devastation that they've left in the Caribbean islands and in Texas, really, really helped us understand the impacts that it can have on our communities when help is not there fast.
For sure. And can you share an example? Is there one particular example that really stands out in terms of how swiftly you were able to provide assistance? Rescue, recovery, whatever point in disaster.
There's lots of examples, and not to drag you too much into how disaster response and relief works, but if you think about, it's fascinating, and oftentimes you don't even fully see it on TV. But just last week we met with the Red Cross and heard about how our help in helping them staff shelters is really helpful. We have prepackaged kits for them. For example, for the population of kids that are sensitive to noise, to large populations, kids on the autism spectrum, when they come to a shelter, they definitely need help that is that makes them feel more accommodated. It's like headphones, maybe a blanket, some fidget toys. So it's great to hear how these shelter kits immediately help. So when they're in Hurricane Helene, our contact with the Red Cross said, it was so easy. We were sitting in the situation room trying to figure out what all needs to happen so we can start opening the shelters. And the shelter manager was like, yep, the shelter kits, we get from Amazon. So, we make it really easy for them to quickly and swiftly help, and sort of deliver what they're really good at, put the human side into those relationships and help people withstand the trauma they've just been going through and help them feel a little bit more dignified.
And wow, that's really thoughtful to think there are kits for children and others who just are very sensitive and, and might need the fidgets and other things to make them feel really comfortable, because it's already uncomfortable situation. That's extremely thoughtful. And
right. And other examples, like we have our customers are really also sometimes the first responders. If you remember, we had recently a really, really bad flash flood in Central Texas, which went through the news.
Country, yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, lots of young children also died, and the rescue operations were really involved. Everybody wanted to make sure all of that. You may remember lots of people were unaccounted for days on end. So these rescue workers were, also just at the end of their energy. We cannot say it in a better word,
mentally, everything.
Very taxing physically and mentally. And so, we sent Gatorade because that's what they needed. And, that they knew that we would be there for them and that they could ask for Gatorade and it would be there really fast. And we did LA wildfires is another example where we've really leaned in on how we are doing our work. Just half a year prior to the LA wildfires, we have invested in a disaster relief hub, especially for wildfires in the San Bernardino Valley. We knew that in a wildfire, giving quick help and being there for what firefighters needs, but also what community needs is essential. You cannot bring firefighters gloves and masks 4 days after they started fighting a fire. They need it right away. So we were able to do this by pre-positioning our inventory in that hub and delivering them within 8 hours to the brigades.
And those Santa Ana winds, when they start whipping up, that is not quite predictable, but there are certain areas of vulnerability in certain parts of the country for sure. But there's other times where you might not see where something is going to happen. Who knew where Helene would hit North Carolina last year, for example, just so acutely. Things can happen anywhere.
They can. And, our first responders and the relief organizations actually really do their best to set up shop and kind of go through this assessment of what is needed quickly. And we are, one of the things we really want to be good at is to really fulfill exactly what they need versus sending them items that we don't know if they need, they don't know if they need, or even things that they will never need. It's sort of like we call it sometimes disaster pollution, like when you send in donations that are, then cause problems for relief.
Just pile up because they're not used.
Right. All of that. We're trying to really be mindful of that and work with them on this on an ongoing basis.
So, Bettina, tell me a little bit about what are some stories that have stayed with you? I'm sure there's a lot, like after the fact, after things have settled down. What are some stories from people who have been directly impacted and helped by these outreach efforts and this disaster relief? What stayed with you?
I'll tell you, the first story I'm going to tell you goes back to 2018, maybe. Back then, I was a lot more involved also, rolling up the sleeves and helping fulfill some of these requests myself before we had a bigger strategy of how to pre-position. We're trying and testing it out. And so I get a call from the Red Cross, and the Red Cross is asking for sifters. I don't know if you know what that is. I did not know what that is. It is like a sieve that you use to go
like a flour sifter? Like the little
flour sifter, or kind of, it's more like an outdoor sifter. And people ordered it on Amazon to go, Gold Rush style into rivers and and shake out and try to find gold nuggets. Apparently, this still exists as a recreational item, if you so will. And the Red Cross calls us and asks, this is an item we would like to procure in our kit to the families that had to leave Santa Maria, a community that got burnt down to the ground through a firestorm in Northern California. And, we cannot find it anywhere, but does Amazon have it? I look it up. Sure enough, we have that item. I see we have it in inventory. I pull it from the inventory. I said, like, mind me telling why you need that? And what do people do with this? And so the Red Cross shared that they hand it out so people could go and sieve through the ashes of their properties to see if they can find jewelry there, or maybe something that has been left not burned down by the fire and withstood the heat. I told the story to the person that helped me pull that inventory, a buyer in our stores business. And sure enough, in the next wildfire that ravages there, I get a call from the buyer and he says, Bettina, I've already put an order in for more. So, this is sort of, it kind of really warmed my heart to just see how our employees are also, how they're getting attached to their work in a whole different way, like by helping disaster victims, being close to what actually is needed to help people get over quickly what they have been experiencing.
And at that point, you might not even know you need something like that, but to also understand that you might have helped someone recover a wedding ring, recover coins, recover just anything of meaning, because it's just when everything burns to the ground, those things are just so important to find. Wow, that's quite an incredible story.
Yeah.
And
but then, talking about employees, one story that always stays with me is how we were packing for, I think, our first flight to go to Puerto Rico in Hurricane Maria, when for the first time we packed one of our airplanes full of goods to help in the aftermath of the storm that really had taken everything down. And we packed the plane really to the brim, as much as we could get in and bring to Puerto Rico, including diapers and tarps and all of that. And I wasn't on the ground there, but, we had a photographer taking picture of how the people that really packed the pallets then left little notes on the pallet shrink wrapping that we put around, notes of encouragement. And, many of the people that work in our operations oftentimes come from areas that are affected. They may have family in Puerto Rico or in the Caribbean. And so those messages of hope really stayed with me.
It's as much logistics as it is humanity, right? And empathy. Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
Because I think everyone in a case like this knows it could be them, it could be their family, it could be any one of us at any time, right?
That's exactly right. And the communities really come together in these moments. And if you are there when they need it the most, right after that restores a lot of dignity. And it also has really the right outcomes to be speedy and fast and prepared. If you don't have a tarp, you cannot put a roof over your head. It may rain more. There's more damage to the house. If you don't have water or sanitation items, you may contract any diseases, and like that slows down the recovery process also. We're here to really do what the community tells us is proven to help and is needed fast, and we'll pre-position that for our partners.
And of course, reactionary is wonderful, but preparedness is really, really important. And we're talking about hurricane season, and it's here, right? I mean, we've seen on the news already. So what kinds of things are you doing now?
Yeah. Thanks for asking that question. I just came back from Atlanta, from Union City, that's north of Atlanta, where we have our biggest of 15 disaster relief hub and it was also the first. And we started that relief hub in 2021, knowing that in hurricane seasons, it's often one hurricane after another. And our relief organizations are not in a position to store all of the items that they need. So we've worked with them very, very closely to staff all of those supplies. We have 10,000 square feet stuffed with 1.4 million relief items, items that we know the community has asked for us in the past. We're ready to, ship this whenever the first request comes in. Obviously, we're watching closely. Let's all hope that this is not the case. But when it is, we're ready with tarps, with tents, with cleaning supplies, with medical supplies, with soap, all to get them there in the shortest time possible, hopefully within the first 72 hours.
And that's a strategic location in Atlanta because a lot, so much of that, of course, is in the east and in the southeast. So that's a pretty.
That's right. We can reach. We also can ship trucks, but we can also fly airplanes. And we're it's like Puerto Rico is 1,500 miles. The southern border, like Florida, is 400 miles. So we're all in good shape there to help fast.
Well, I hope it's going to be a quiet season. It didn't really start off that way, but let's hope it's a quiet season.
Yeah. Looking forward to working with everybody together with the community, and let's make sure that our community stays safe and healthy through whatever comes at them.
For sure, and that makes a difference. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Bettina.
Thank you, Lynn.
Eye-opening and kind of encouraging as well when people come together to do the right thing.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it. And if you have an idea out there that you want to share your expertise for a podcast topic, we want to hear from you. So feel free to email me at lptrack@ensembleiq.com. You can also check out our other podcasts, Top Women in Grocery, wherever you typically listen, including on Spotify, Amazon Music, YouTube, Apple, or iHeartRadio. Thanks again, everybody.